What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing about sentinels. Now, sentinels are by far one of the most important characters in a team. They're going to be the main protectors of supports or just other players who are getting chased. However, some sentinels are worse than others, and that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking all the sentinels from worst to best. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Let's go gambling! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning! I can't stop winning!
Our first sentinel is Chance. He has 4 abilities. Coin toss. You flip a coin. If it lands correctly, you get a charge for all your abilities. If it lands incorrectly, you get a stack of weakness, which can build up to get even more stacks of weakness if it keeps failing. Keep in mind, every one of Chance's abilities need a charge in order to use. One shot. His most iconic and useful ability. Load up your flintlock to shoot. There are 3 outcomes for this ability. The first and best outcome is the gun actually shooting. The second outcome is the gun just not shooting. And the last and by far worst outcome is your gun exploding on your face and dealing a lot of damage to you. You will also have your gun locked if it explodes, meaning you can't get any charges for it to actually use it. You can unlock the gun by using Hatfix, an ability I will discuss later. You can also somewhat control the outcome of your gun by adding more charges to the ability. The maximum amount of charges you can get on this ability is 3. At 1 charge, it will be a 50% chance of the gun shooting, a 25% chance of it not shooting, and a 25% chance of it exploding. At all 3 charges, it is a 90% chance of shooting, a 5% chance of it not doing anything, and a 5% chance of it exploding. So the more charges you have, the higher the chance is for your gun to actually shoot. Reroll. Gamble your HP to get a random amount. You can get any amount of HP from 50 to 130. However, that's only at max charges, as with 1 or 2 charges, you can get 50 to 120 HP. You can get a max of 3 charges on this ability. Tactics. You can only get a charge for this ability after successfully flipping the coin 3 times. Use this to get rid of all the weakness you got from coin toss. And finally, his passive. Get a random amount of HP when starting the round. As you can see, he has a lot of abilities, so you may think this makes him really good, right? Well, that's somewhat correct. It gives him a lot of options to use to keep himself safe, but abilities like reroll and Hatfix are used in very specific situations. So don't use these abilities unless you absolutely have to. As for coin toss, it's either the best or worst ability, depending on, well, of course, your luck. But it's obviously still the most important ability in his kit, since you can't use any abilities without it. But his most powerful ability is definitely one shot. It is really useful for keeping others protected, and you can also keep yourself safe since it's a ranged ability. You can use it far away from the killer. But if you can, I suggest you get up a little close, since the closer you hit the killer with this, the more time you stun them for, capping out at a 4-second stun time. This can be really powerful and straight up detrimental to killers, since you can keep shooting from afar while stunning him for a good bit of time. But of course, his main problem is that, well, he needs to gamble for every ability except for Hatfix. Your gun can still explode even when you have 3 charges on it, and when that happens, it'll be really challenging for you to not only get your HP back, but also having your gun back by gambling and risking yourself to be even more vulnerable. Not to mention the fact that his passive can completely screw him up by giving him less HP than the supports. And reroll is even worse. Sure, you get another chance at getting better HP, but you also risk becoming even weaker since you can get really low HP. So yes, he is indeed very powerful, only when he gets lucky enough. And the outcomes for getting unlucky are really harsh, almost costing you the entire game. Our next sentinel is...
Remember just one thing. Be strong. Always be strong.
Guest 1337. He has 3 abilities. Block. Hold your arms up and become invincible for the duration of the block. If the killer hits you while you're blocking, you will get a charge for your punch ability. Charge. Dash forward. Hitting a killer knocks them back and gives them helpless, and makes yourself invincible for 1.5 seconds. However, if you hit a wall, you will get slowness 2 for 7 seconds. Punch. Charge up your hand and lunge forward. Hitting a killer stuns them for 2 seconds. But there is actually a variation for this ability. If you punch right after you block, you have a parry punch, which, if you hit the killer with, will stun them for a whopping 3.5 seconds, and he has a passive that gives him 115 HP. Guest's playstyle is really aggressive, requiring you to always stay next to the killer to get off your abilities. This makes him a really good team player, as you can constantly keep the killer off teammates. He can also help people in chases too, by using block to tank a hit or charging into the killer while he is chasing someone. He's alright in self-defense. Of course, punch is definitely a useful tool when fighting the killer, giving you extra time to run away if you get it off. But that's the issue. You have to land a block before you can use punch, which makes him pretty hard to use in solos. Besides, there are way better options for solos, and Guest's other abilities than punch don't give him all too much in chases. Since charge is only going to give you an extra second to run, and block is just a tool to get a punch. But his main problem is the fact that he is really hard to master. He gets punished heavily for using his abilities incorrectly, because the killer can predict whenever you block, so they can make you waste time on your block, and then once it's over, hit you with an attack. Same goes for punch, because keep in mind, it has a wind up before he lunges forward, so the killer can see you wind up, move out of the way, and once you're done with the punch animation, can quickly attack you. In the hands of the right player, it can be super annoying to the killer, but if the killer is smart enough, he can make quick work of you. And that's his main problem holding him back. The next Sentinel we have is Shedletsky. He has two abilities. Slash. Swing your sword from right to left in a slow motion. Hitting the killer with this will stun them for 3.25 seconds, which is a pretty good stun. Chicken. Pull out a chicken drumstick and start munching on it, healing 5 HP and an extra 35 HP over time. He will be slowed down while eating it. He only has 2 pieces. Shedletsky is very simple. He doesn't have any complicated extra mechanics. He is a pretty powerful stunner. His sword isn't all too hard to land if you can set yourself up into a good enough position. And because it also stuns for a fair amount of time, you will have good time to run away after you have stunned him. His chicken is really good. It heals a total of 40 HP, meaning that if you have taken a good chunk of damage, you can just hide somewhere and heal back all the damage that the killer puts so much effort into doing to you. He can also be quite useful to the team too. His slash can also be used offensively in order to save someone who was just getting chased. He needs to line himself up properly to the killer, and once he's close enough to hit him with slash, to stop him dead in his tracks and give the survivor the killer was chasing ample time to run away. But he still has his fair share of problems, mainly being that his sword swing slows him down a lot, meaning you have to be very good at positioning yourself and swing at just the right time, because otherwise it will just be wasted and you couldn't save the survivor. This can also be straight up detrimental to you. Because of how much he is slowed down when he uses slash, the killer can very easily attack you if you miss it. It's the same problem as Guest. So yes, he indeed is very powerful, not only being able to keep himself safe really well, but also being quite good at protecting other teammates. Just be careful in how you use slash, because using it incorrectly can make you go from winning the round to losing the round. The last Sentinel is Two Time. He has 3 abilities. Sacrificial Dagger. Pull out your dagger and swing it forward. Hitting a killer with this gives him slowness 2 and helpless for 2 seconds. And it fills up a third of your ablation bar and heals you by 10 HP. However, there's actually a variation for this ability. If you manage to stab the killer from the back, you will actually get a backstab, This stuns for a whopping 4 seconds, fills up half your oblation bar, and heals you by 20 HP. Crouch. Crouch and gain invisibility 3 and undetectable. During this, you will be a lot more slowed down, and if you use the dagger while crouching, you will lunge forward a lot of distance. Ritual. Pull out your dagger and start stabbing the ground, forming a spawn symbol. This is where you will teleport to after you have gained your second life. Passive. You will have an oblation bar to the right side of the screen. This bar will fill up after you stab the killer. If you fully charge up the bar, you will gain access to your second life. If you get brought down to 0 HP, instead of done, you will respawn where you have set your ritual and gain 40 HP, speed 2 for 6 seconds, and weakness 5 for 12 seconds. So 2-time is fairly decent in teamwork. As you know, he can stun for 4 seconds if he manages to pull off a backstab. This is super beneficial to the team, as 4 seconds is a really good amount of time for everyone to run away from the killer. But here's the thing, that's only if you pull off a backstab, and landing a backstab is very challenging. A killer can easily see you try to pull off a backstab, so they can immediately look towards you and attack you. Not to mention, the killer can be running at such an awkward angle that you might not be able to find an opening for the backstab. So most of the time, you will be able to stab from the front, which is honestly useless in my opinion. While slowness 2 is a fairly decent slowdown, the issue is its duration. Only 2 seconds, barely any time to actually take advantage of that slowness. Crouch should only ever be used for the lunge you give to dagger, since you are still seeable and the invisibility isn't enough to hide you. And his second life is super good. Not only do you just get an extra 40 HP, you also get teleported to the location you set up your ritual, which, if placed in a very far away spot, will be really useful since you just made up a bunch of ground from the killer, and the killer will have to waste a lot of time trying to catch up to you. Overall, 2-time is really good at keeping himself safe, and at oftentimes can also be very good at saving others too, but his dagger is only good at its fullest potential, which is a backstab, and reaching that potential is extremely difficult as there are just too many factors preventing you from getting that backstab. Now that I've discussed all the Sentinels, it's time for me to rank them. And at last place is Guest 1337. Well, unfortunately, even though Guest is pretty good at teamwork, he's honestly very inconsistent and hard to get good value out of. Why? Well, because for Guest to get an actually good stun on the killer, he needs to parry punch, and that is not too hard to dodge. And if Guest misses, he gets punished heavily. As for his other abilities, Charge doesn't do much in disorienting the killer, and his regular punch is just meh. It doesn't stun for too long, and it's still easy to dodge. So due to him having the worst stun options, I think he should get last place. At third place is Chance. Chance has a pretty powerful stun, but here's the problem, it's his luck. He has just as much of a good kit as he has a bad kit, all due to his gambling aspect making him very risky to play with. You can't get consistently good rounds with Chance unless you get consistently good luck, and that's almost impossible. He can die by his gun exploding, getting low HP, or even getting unfathomable amounts of weakness. But at the same time, he can get the exact opposite of those. So yes, he can be very powerful, but only if he gets lucky enough, because if he doesn't, he will die very quickly. Now, we have 2 more Sentinels remaining, Shedletsky and 2-time. But who's the best? Well, in my opinion, I'm gonna have to say Shedletsky. Here's 2-time's main problem. To get good stun value out of him, you need to get as many backstabs as possible, and as I've already discussed, there are many issues pertaining to landing a backstab. So oftentimes you will only get front stabs, and that's what makes Shedletsky better. His sword doesn't need any setup or a specific way to land it in order to stun. He can just simply use it on the killer and he stuns him. Plus, Shedletsky's sword stun has a pretty good stun value. 3.25 seconds is still quite good and can easily save teammates. But what about how good they are at self-defense? Well, 2-time gets an extra 48 feet, plus a lot of extra distance from the killer with his ritual. But you still have to go through the process of landing enough daggers to fill up the oblation bar. And during that process, you're pretty helpless since you only have 80 HP. Plus, dagger isn't good at all in mid-chase, since the slowness doesn't do much, and landing a backstab is nigh impossible, since the killer will always be facing your direction. But for Shedletsky, his sword is better in chase, and he also has his chicken to do a lot of HP whenever he wants. So 2-time is way better at self-defense, only when he has ritual, but Shedletsky is overall better at self-defense. So I'd say they're equal in terms of self-defense. So 2-time is just as good as self-defense as Shedletsky, but still has less teamwork capability than Shedletsky. And that is why I think Shedletsky is the best Sentinel in Forsaken. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, smash that like button, and share this video with a friend or your family relative, cause I need those views. Thanks for watching and have a good day.